What is up, everybody? This is Dominique, your CFP on YouTube, founder of DJH Capital Management, founder of the Jumpstart community for financial professionals. And we are streaming live on a Wednesday like we normally do. So what is up? If you are a Jumpstart community member, what is going on? Thank you for joining us once again. I would love to know where you're watching from. And so just go ahead and put that down in the chat. And if you're new and you don't know who I am and you're like, who's this handsome dude? I just introduced myself. So hopefully you will continue to join us. You may be a consumer of a financial services product or service, or you may be an aspiring financial professional. You may be an existing financial professional. We kind of hit all those people or I guess walks of life, if you will, on this podcast. So it is great to be here. We're going to talk about some real interesting stuff today. I've got notes today. Check that out. I want to make sure I cover everything because I've been getting a lot of inbound on my DM or the social platforms that I'm on about this particular topic, which is what would I do? How would I create a financial plan? If I was going to, bring on a client or I was thinking through this process, how would I do that? So I'm definitely going to go through all that today. So sit back, relax, and take some notes, possibly, especially if you're thinking about this as a career. I think some things I wanted to kind of talk about before we get started while we're letting everybody kind of sign in and get logged in is last week I talked with Megan Landris, financial coach Megan, about riches and niches. Definitely something you need to check out. And if you are, let's say if you are going down that financial coaching path and you want to develop a specialty, this is one that you definitely want to check out. And the week before that, we talked with Malcolm Etheridge about breaking down how to break away. So you may be in a firm that's not a great fit and you're like, maybe I should move around. Malcolm had a wealth of knowledge because he's done it before. And that is one for the ages also. So definitely go check those out. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about those shows, what you think about those conversations. I would love to hear from you. And we're going to get crack-a-lacking here. Let's see who's joining us. So for what's going on, Randy, watching all the way from South Carolina. And someone in my Facebook group is watching and they have not said who they are. Let's see who this is. Oh, Charmaine, what's going on? She didn't register like the instructions, but that's okay. We love you all the same. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so let me get my screen set up here with all the stuff I got going on, and we're going to get right into here. So many of you know that I'm a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. Got that designation in about 4 years ago, almost. I think this fall is about 4 years. So I'm not going to necessarily be going through the financial planning process per the CFP board. And the reason for that is not because I don't endorse it or I don't use it. It's just that it's on cfp.net and you can go look at it. So what would be the value in me walking you through that? I rather show you some behind the scenes, some very practical things that I think about when I'm working through how to create a financial plan, so that if you charge down this journey as a financial planner, as a CFP, as a financial coach, you will have a framework at least of how a professional does that. And possibly you can start to use some of that in what you do. That is kind of the hopes, or at least what I aspire for in this particular segment today. So, okay. Hey, what's going on, Mackenzie? So we're going to hop into this. So interesting fact here. There's more than 87,000 certified financial planners in the United States. And I'm just one out there, right? I'm just one voice. I don't know it all. I don't have all the answers or nothing like that. I don't even have the biggest client base, none of that kind of stuff. But what I think is very important about the financial planning process really comes across in a story before I get into these points. So for the last 2 days, yesterday and the day before, I had a really good friend of mine spend the better part of each business day with me, going through his firm setup, the financial planning process, who his ideal client's going to be, all the tools he can use in order to build his brand. We really spent a lot of time doing some deep dives on all those subjects. And what I would say that came out of that, the takeaway, the holy grail of all of that is you have got to, as a planner, you've got to have a philosophy that you believe in, that you can wake up in the middle of the night and recite if somebody woke you up out of a sleep, and be able to articulate what you want to deliver to your prospective client, right? That's what it really boils down to. There's a lot of nuance that people get into about fee only and fee based and commission and all this other kind of stuff. But it really boils down to, I, as a client, going to come to you, Dominique, I have a problem. And that particular problem that I am having is causing some dislocation in my life. It's causing some unbalance. It's causing some anxiety. It's causing some frustration. It's causing stress. It may even be causing problems in my relationships with my marriage or my kids or whatever. That frustration translates into other things, and it starts to diminish the quality of life that particular client is experiencing. That's why it's a problem. That's why they're talking to you at this point. And then your job as the planner, regardless of what framework you use, mine, CFPs, or whoever, you need to start to design a solution to solve the problem that they're experiencing. And now, it may not be overnight because they probably didn't break it overnight, but you need to design a system by which they start to get relief over time. And that's what builds the relationship. And the fact that you are delivering these, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, small wins and victories along the way, it builds the trust meter and continues to deposit trust into the bank, so that as you begin to make these recommendations to them to implement across, whatever areas of their lives, cash flow, investment positioning, tax strategy, estate protection, blah, 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 all those cool areas of financial planning, they will actually do it, right? What if you build this great plan out of eMoney or whatever software you use, and it's this great charts and graphs and all this kind of stuff, and they don't do anything because they don't trust you. They don't trust your recommendations. You haven't gotten a chance to get to know them. You haven't figured out what that problem that they're experiencing and gotten intimately acquainted with it and drafted something for them to fix it. So that is what the financial planning process is about. If you don't listen to anything else in the first 8 minutes, I've already given it to you. So let's kind of unpack this. I think the first point is, if I were doing a financial plan, I would focus on a specific group of people. So what do I mean by that? So last week, like I said, Megan and I, Megan Landris, financial coach Megan, we talked about riches and niches. And I think, a lot of advisors kind of get this wrong, in that they think about niches and they think about doctors, or they think about lawyers, and they think about all this kind of stuff. And that's fine, right? You can go with a vocational niche. You can go even more granular and go into a company niche. You want to talk to people from Pepsi or Home Depot or wherever. That's fine. This is what the whole point about a niche is. It offers you the ability to scale your services. Like when you are talking to one type of person, one type of demographic, or one type of psychographic, right? There's all type of persona niches that you can do too, like people that aspire to, maybe donate something to charity later, or people that, my friend that we were talking about, he is aspiring to work with people that want to have this whole component of work life balance, or money life balance, right? So there's a lot of different niches. So the point is, you as a practitioner, when you're going into there with the idea of a niche, you are creating really a template or a system for that type of person. And when that person finds you, the more you do this, the better you become at it. So that's a benefit and a win for them. And it allows you to scale your services. You don't have to come up with like 16 different templates because you serve everybody and their mom. If you work with retirees, or you work with doctors, or you work with veterinarians, or you work with chiropractors, or like Megan last week was working with people that, are having problems with student loans or want to pay down their student loan debt. She gets a template and she starts to see the similarities across clients that she works with. And that helps her become a better practitioner. I'm going to tell you another secret is that it also helps you to be more efficient with your time and allows you to serve more people, and probably at a higher price. So that means more profitability. So if I were doing this from the get-go and I was starting, I would pick on a specific group of people. Now, here's the pushback I'm going to inevitably get on this when people rewatch this and DM me and all this other kind of stuff, which I welcome it. Go ahead and bring it on. Is the fact that, okay, Dominique, I just started and I don't have the luxury of picking a niche, right? I don't like, I got to put food on the table. Au contraire. I think that if you were to do something like this, right? So here's an idea. This is what I talk about with my coaching clients, right? So if we're scoping out their plan, I'm like, look, if you're a career transitioner or you used to, here's a good example. So I used to work with an advisor that used to be a doctor, and he left and retired from being a doctor, and he got a CFP, loved financial planning, the whole nine. Now, he went back and served physicians, specifically physicians that were, that had a practice that were trying to sell their practice and eventually get out. So he was very intimately acquainted with what those people think, the problems they're going through from a business owner standpoint, from a personal finance standpoint. Like, all that was a very transferable skill. Now, what would you do as a person that maybe did not have that transferable skill? But if you used to work somewhere, like if you're leaving the army or leaving the military, or if you're leaving a profession where you knew all these people for 15 or 10 or 20 years or whatnot, I mean, the benefits booklet, the water coolers, Hauck, if you will, all these things. These are very, very good transferable skills that you can use in order to kind of position yourself as now the financial expert. Now, granted, you do need to go get competent in the art and science of financial planning and learn what the elements are across the financial advice continuum. But once you do that, whether you choose CFP or whether you choose some other standard or designation, you will be well equipped to go into and serve a specialty type of person. So that would be what I would say there. Is first, I would focus on a specific group, and I would build scale. It may be hard in the first 6, 9, 12 months, 18 months even. But after that, it's going to pay dividends for you to have done that. Brad Johnston, thank you for joining us. Right on. I appreciate that, man. CPWA, certified private wealth advisor. Very good designation. I got some friends that have that. What's going on, Dr. Severine? How you doing there? Okay, so second point. I would find a clear objective to accomplish. Now, when you're working with a client, and I set this at the top of this, is you definitely want to get really, 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 really good at goal articulation, right? Clients come to you all over the place most of the time. They're coming to you in pain, right? So just imagine, when I was playing basketball way back in the day, I broke my toe. And when I broke my toe, I went to the emergency room too late. Probably 2 days later, my wife was looking at me, was like, your toe is not supposed to be purple, Dominique. So, but anyways, when I went there, I went to the emergency room, and he's asking me all these questions, and I'm in pain, and I'm all over the place with, details and how it happened and when it happened and and all I just really wanted to do is help fix my toe. And there's not a lot you can do for a broken toe except for put yourself in one of those odd looking shoes. But here's the point. When somebody's in pain, when somebody has a broken arm or a problem, a broken life situation, they're going to be all over the place. Your job as a planner is to come in there and calm them down and start to define some very clear objectives to get them out of pain. That's going to be your job. You got to be the cooler head that's kind of prevailing, if you will. Right. So if they want to retire 10 years earlier, or they want to save $1 million, right? It's the next question, which is not, okay, that's great. My natural answer to that is always, well, why? Why do you want to do that? Right. And I've talked about this before, but usually when people say that I want to retire 10 years earlier, or I want to get out of this job, there's some underlying thing right there, right? It's the whole notion about how, most of the iceberg's mass is underneath. You have to dig. You have to ask why. It could be that they want to retire early because they want to leave this job because it's so frustrating. Or it could be that they want to retire early so they can have enough time to travel with a parent that's sick. You have to dig a couple of layers deep. But the point is you want to define a very clear objective, because most people want a couple of things, if not both of these. They want time and they want money freedom. It really doesn't get any more simpler than that, right? They want the ability to have time to do the things that they want with the people that they love, and they want to have enough resources in order to do those things, to enable them to do those things. So I think you have to think from that standpoint and try to funnel the discussion, if you will, into that. And you may, kind of dance around and get a lot of different data points, right? But I think when I do this, just a very practical tip is when I'm going through this process with somebody and I'm asking them questions, I am taking really super good notes, and I'm usually recording the meeting with their permission, right? So I can go back through and comb through that meeting and look at the questions that I asked and look at their answers also, right? Because that definitely helps me, especially if they decide to come on as a client when I'm preparing the financial plan, so that I can understand what we're trying to accomplish here. So I think from that standpoint, you need to definitely have a super duper good process for getting a clear objective. And, there's so many different goals exercises and things of that nature. I mean, it's going to be really hard to, open up the CFP curriculum textbook and just, go line by line, right? This is going to take some experience, right? That's why I always say, get a mentor, start working a job where you're in the mix and you're a junior advisor or you're associate planner or whatever, a paraplanner, and you're in these meetings with financial planners and you're listening to the dialogue. You're listening to the questions that are being asked by the planner, and you're also listening to how the client is responding and in the ways that they're responding, the body language, all the nuances there. That's what makes you a better planner. Okay. And then I said this also, that my third thing would be to build in small wins, right? So it's kind of funny, right? So like, let's say that you are, you're your first day of school, right? You're a kindergartner, and somebody comes up to you, maybe even your parents, and like, you're gonna have so much fun at school today, kindergarten. And next thing you know, all this time's gonna pass and you're gonna be graduating. Yay, you're gonna graduate. You're gonna walk across the stage. Like, you would be like, what? Like, I don't even know when that is. I don't even know the concept of graduating. What does that even mean? I think a lot of planners do this with clients. They have this process they take them through, and they give them these super big goals that are going to take forever to do, right? Now, it's okay to talk about these goals, but you need to outline the steps that will allow you to get to the goal or accomplish the objective. You can't tell them right now at age 25, yeah, let's put this plan in place to save for 40 years and you're going to have $5 million. It's like 40 years, man. Like, dude, I may be around, I may not. You need to build in, okay, at age 25, you're coming to me now. What is the pain point that you've got right now? Oh, okay, student loans. Okay, let's get a process by which we can start paying down these student loans, and you can start seeing some small wins, whether that is a jump in their credit score, whether that is, we paid off a loan and now I got more cash flow, and now I can go use that cash flow to start paying off the next loan and a little bit of it on the side to take a vacation. Like, you need to start building in small wins when you're thinking about a plan. And that's what I would do, because people don't want to, the delayed gratification thing is great in theory, but a lot of people just they don't want to hear that. they want their cake and they want to eat it too, and they want it yesterday. So not that every client is like that, but I think you have to consider as a planner, and I've seen so many different software, how they got these big long projections and 7 or 10 year returns for blah blah blah, and that's all great. I'm not denying the significance of those. I'm just saying that practically speaking, when you're in a meeting with the client, and if you were to build a plan, that client wants to see how I'm going to be helped in the next 3 months or 6 months, right? Not 17 years from now. That's just going to be a really, really long time. And it also may not elicit the most goodwill and trust. Because here's the other thing, and I talked about this at the top of the podcast, is you want to start building in these small wins, because as the goals get checked off and they're successful, you are successful with working with the client on accomplishing these goals, the trust is going to shoot up. And as the trust shoots up, you're able to accomplish even a bigger thing and foster even more trust. And it's like a snowball effect. It starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I think you have to consider that you are making deposits into the trust bank over the time, and you want to continue to make deposits. You don't want to make too many withdrawals by making mistakes or over promising and under delivering and things of that nature. Those things happen, right? They do happen. There's nothing wrong. You're not a bad planner per se. I guess you would be if you keep on doing it over and over again. But the point is everybody makes those type of mistakes. And the best thing to do when you do make those mistakes is own up to the mistake and try to move forward. See what you can do to make it better and then move forward. But what I would say is try to build in small wins. At least if I was creating a plan for somebody, I would be trying to build in those small wins along the way in order to allow them to start to trust me more, so that when I'm giving them recommendations and I'm asking them to change or modify behavior, they trust me because we've had success in the past. So that's what I would say about that. What else do we have here? I think we're good. I want to jump into some questions, so you guys can go ahead and start putting those into the chat. I do have a question that somebody submitted earlier this week, and it was, how will you approach low-income clients that can't change much and live paycheck to paycheck? How different will a financial plan be for such clients compared to the rest? This is a really great question. And thank you for this, Panos. I don't know if you're watching. Panos is in the Facebook group and he's in Greece. So I think there's quite a bit of time difference. I don't remember. He told me this one time, but I forgot. So, okay. So how would you approach low income clients? Okay. So I think this goes back to the whole notion of the niche that I talked about. Like, I think if you're going to be targeting or serving people that are low income, you need to build your platform around that, right? I don't think you're going to try to serve a low income client and then a high net worth client. Those are two different, scopes of people. So I think what you would do is if you're thinking about the fact that you may have to be serving low income clients or those people that you're going to be targeting, then you need to build your platform around that, which means that you may have an element of what you offer as, group coaching, right? Because when it comes to the exchange of time versus the value that you're putting out, it's just not really efficient for you to, be with one client one-on-one that can barely pay your fee or has to have a subsidy that you offer with your fee in order for them to use the service. So I think there's a lot of different solutions here. If they're living paycheck to paycheck, I think that you have to really, it just depends on where you're at. If you're starting out, you probably can't afford to take on that client. That's just the God's honest truth. You're gonna have to build up some margin first. And I would say financial margin before you start taking on those type of clients, because you're going to starve and they're already starving. And that's not going to be you can't be a good planner if you're not operating from a place of strength, financial strength, health, mental health, the whole nine. Like if the more people are pulling on you and using you as a resource, that's going to be taken out of you emotionally, physically. And if you're not healthy, you're not going to be able to give good advice. So I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's a good start for anybody I don't think that's a good practice for anybody that's starting. Now, if you've established some margin and you want to serve that client base, maybe you do it pro bono, or you figure out a platform by which you can get them the access they need at a price point that makes sense for you and them. That's what I would say about that. How different will a financial plan be for such client? Yeah, the plan. So my plans are a little different. I'm not, and I hate to say this, but I just want to, be clear. I don't really do cookie cutter plans. Like, I know a lot of software prints out these reports and that's not to say that I won't use those inside my plan, but I typically write my plans. So that's the reason why I take such detailed notes. That's the reason why I record the calls. Because I spend a lot of time going into their specific situation with real recommendations that's going to move the needle, should they follow the recommendation, and I write them. So the reason why I say that is because you said, how different will the plan be? Well, all my client plans are different, right? They're customized for that particular client. So That's how I would answer that question. But thank you for the question, Panos. All right. What software do you use to build your financial plans? Philip asked this question. What software do I use? So I am currently using Right Capital for my plans. Right Capital is relatively economical. This is what I would say about all financial planning software. So if any software people are on this or watching this at some point, I apologize for stepping on your toes, but none of them are perfect. And they will probably all admit that. Like I haven't found, and I've used quite a few over my time, I haven't found any to be perfect. So I take elements of what I need. So for instance, Right Capital has a really good client vault and portal, right? So when I'm onboarding a client, it's really helpful for them to log into the Right Capital portal, use the vault, and securely upload all their information for me to start on the plan. And they can, put in their passwords to suck in their account at Fidelity or whatever bank they have. So that's all pretty convenient. But I'll tell you right now, that's pretty standard across most platforms. So it's just a matter of what you end up liking and using, right? This is the way I think about it. And a lot of people don't think about it this way. And I've consulted with dozens of advisors. But I think what you should do is if you're starting out, you should think about the type of person you want to serve, like that specific group that I talked about. And you should work through in your mind what you're trying to deliver for them and create your process. Then go find the software that fits into your process. A lot of people go buy the software and then try to fit their process into the software. And that always breaks everything. Even though things are not perfect, I would much rather figure out my process first and then go find out what software best fits my process. That's probably the better way to do that. But to answer your question, Philip, I use Right Capital. And like I said, I use the math of it mostly in the vault, and then I write my plans. But great question. I appreciate it. Okay. Steve says, when starting out with 0 clients, who would you still walk away from? What client attributes scare you and why? Oh, this is a really great question. So I'll tell this story and I'll tell it pretty much the way it happened. So I have to kind of zoom out a little bit to give you what my process is. So most people find me through my YouTube channel or a video or something, right? And then they go to my website, they look at stuff, blah, 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 blah. Then they book an appointment. Okay. So I had this person book an appointment. And so my process is like a 15, 20-minute call, longer if we hit it off. And then after that, I do a discovery meeting, which is about 45 minutes. I prepare a proposal for them and we walk through all their stuff. They answer a questionnaire in between that first and that second meeting so I can have a little bit more context. And then after I write that proposal, they either want to move forward or they don't, right? Not necessarily in that meeting, but that's the process, right? And then we do the plan presentation. So it's really a 3-meeting approach. Okay. So I'm talking to this guy and I asked the normal question that I normally ask at the top of the call, which is like, why did you reach out? Like, what's going on here? And he starts to talk and I noticed this tone of do it yourself. He kept on saying a lot of stuff that he's done over the span. So I just asked him, I was like, well, what do you need an advisor for if you do it yourself? And he was like, well, I just want kind of, a second opinion, and second opinions are okay. But with the way that this conversation went, I ended up just saying the following. I don't think we'll be a good fit because, I'm the type of person that I believe in paying for what either I know how to do but don't have time to do, or just getting extra perspective, additional perspective. And usually I don't work really well with people that don't believe the same thing, right? So let's just say you're making $250,000 a year, right? And you work a normal 2,000 hour year, then your time is worth like $125 an hour. Like, why would you spend 5-6+ hours on the weekend trying to figure out something that you don't know and that you're not an expert in just because you earn the money? Like that doesn't make sense. And I've talked about this before. Like somebody comes and does my yard. I know how to do my yard. I actually do a pretty good job, but at my hourly rate, it makes more sense for me to pay him since it's less than my hourly rate and go find more clients and help them. So that's just a different way about leverage and where you value time. And for somebody that, doesn't want the full advice of an advisor, but they just want somebody to look over their shoulder to see if they're doing it wrong or right, that's not the best fit for me. So those things scare me, Steve. Like if somebody, and I wouldn't even say necessarily scared, those are just not good fit for me. There are advisors out there. I said there's 87,000 CFPs at the top of this. So go find one of those guys or gals. I just don't want to do it. I don't feel that the level of expertise that I've gained over doing this for 20 years is inferior to someone that does something else for a living. I mean, that may sound cocky or something, but I'm just like the average Joe doesn't know more than me. So the reason why you're bringing me in is to give you the advice so that you will get to your goal faster and quicker and more efficiently. Otherwise, why hire me? So that's just the way I feel about it. I feel really strongly about that, as you can probably tell. And I'm big on fit. If people don't believe in that, then they probably shouldn't work with me. Have you developed templates to write your plans? Yeah, kind of. So I have a married couples type of template, and then I have a individuals template. But again, like the sections are probably templated, but inside each section is where the customization comes, right? So whether we're talking about a cash flow plan and how to handle that particular budget, all the numbers are different, right? Or whether we're talking about investment philosophy or investment strategy. When we create the investment policy statement, right, I may have a model, but how did you score on your risk tolerance? What's your preference for return? How much do you know about the stock market or, investing? All that's going to be different, right? And how we allocate your capital across at least the spectrums of how I look at wealth allocation may be different. Tax strategy, right? What bracket are you in? We may need to do things like change your withholding, right? After we look at, the last couple of years of taxes, you may make so much that there's really nothing else that you can do. So templates, yes, but there's still a lot of customization that goes into it just because, especially with the initial plan. And this is what I would say to all planners. So here's a hard stop and go parenthetical on you. So when you are bringing on a new client, it behooves you to underpromise and overdeliver. You want to wow them with everything that you could potentially give to them. And it's okay to put more in there than what they paid for. Matter of fact, I admonish you to do so. And I get super duper detailed on that initial plan because it's the best time to make the first impression, right? They've just paid you for this plan. I mean, they're excited about moving forward. The level of intention is probably going to be the highest of the relationship, arguably. So you could either fail miserably here, or I guess you could be kind of lukewarm, but who wants to be lukewarm, right? You want to just knock it out of the park. So that's what I try to do in every plan that I do. To that extent, sometimes you can't do very templated things. You have to make it more customized. People may disagree with that. I would be happy to see what other planners do. Like if other planners are on this call, by all means, chime in to see what maybe what you do. But from an efficiency standpoint, no, it's not the most efficient, but I'm not trying to be super duper efficient on that first plan. I'm trying to pack a lot of value in there. That's what I'm trying to do. Do you teach your process in the Jumpstart program? Kind of. Yeah, I do. So thank you, Phillip, for this. This is a good segue. So this weekend, and you can register here on the community resource page. We are, I've gone back and forth. I've been tugged on, and I finally said, okay, let's try this. So we got group coaching. So group coaching looks like kind of like this. But whereas some comments I skip over and I just don't have time to do it, or I answered your question already, or the format is not, your comment or question is way off topic. So I just don't, I don't bring it in at all. Whereas with group coaching, whatever you want to ask me, like literally whatever you want to ask me, is going to be like office hours. So if you wanted to take this discussion offline, that's the best time to do is inside the group coaching. So that's one thing. And then obviously there's two different offerings here. So I don't know, Phillip, where you are. If you're an aspiring financial professional, you would be more suited probably for my professional development program, where we do talk about some of this, but mostly we're talking about how do we get you your first job? How do we get you your first opportunity inside the financial services industry? Because all the planning and all that stuff is great, but if you don't have a job to do that stuff at, then it doesn't really matter. So that's really the goal there. Now, if you are an existing financial professional, you already have clients and you are trying to either glean some of this wisdom or need help with marketing or just building your brand, that's the masterclass, right? So all the stuff is on this the page that I got up right now. So the masterclass is down there. So there's a section for like aspiring and then a section for existing financial professionals. Pretty intuitive. You can see that there. So yes. Do I charge a fee for the plan? Absolutely. You can't and there's some I won't say there's consternation. Maybe there's debate on this in the industry. Well, I know there's debate on this. Like I know, so for instance, the firm I came from before I started my own, they did not charge for the plan. It was, I guess you would consider it a loss leader, and they more so made the money or the profit was around the investments and the AUM model. This is what I think. This is what I feel. And again, I'm one out of 87,000 CFPs. So I believe that people value what they pay for. Now, if you want to say that you're a comprehensive planner and you believe in holistic planning and that everything starts with a plan, we need a strategy, but then you don't charge for it or you charge very little for it, it's a disconnect. It's just a human nature of disconnect that you're not doing exactly what you say. And the undertone from that, if you're just kind of skipping to the next consequence of that is, well, if you don't do what you say or you don't really, this value that you say you have doesn't really align up with, your service offering, then what else doesn't make sense? Or what else should I not trust? Is this all in the mind of the client? And you may think I'm wrong here, but trust me, I've been doing this a long time. So you have to think about it from the standpoint of you got to assign a value to planning. If you value planning and that is a core of what you do and it's the core of your philosophy, then yes, you have to charge for it. You can't hem and haw about it. I will say 99% of the engagements I do start with a plan. And typically if the client doesn't want to do a plan or if they give me pushback, that's a red flag. Because I'm a planner. I'm a planner at heart. So, I mean, what are we talking about here? Why? Like, I just want you to look at my investments, and I got investments at a couple different places. So yeah, I just want you to be one of my guys. No, I don't do that. I have no interest in that. Some planners do, some advisors do, but I just don't. I take a deep responsibility for the outcomes of my clients. I welcome them into what I call the DJH Capital Management family. Like they get treated like that. So everything starts with the family. Everything starts with the plan if you're in the family. So yes, I do charge for plans. Yes, masterclass may be what you need, sir. There's an application. So I don't want to get too far off the rabbit trail because this is intended for Q&A. But yeah, go there, go to the masterclass. There's an application, fill that out, get on my calendar, and we'll take it from there. Okay. What other questions? Let me make sure. Hey, Mackenzie, if you're still there, Mackenzie in Florida, man, stay safe there. There's the COVID cases there are off the chain. Texas and California and Florida. I heard today, South Carolina too. So everybody stay safe. Make sure you're washing your hands and wearing your mask and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Where else are we? I'm looking for questions. Guys going to get me before I go cook dinner. I don't know if you don't have any more questions. Maybe you don't have any more questions. I don't know. But this has been great. I think what I would say, just in kind of summing this up, just making sure that I've covered all my notes. Oh, let me do this because I did say this. I said, so what are clients looking for, right? I think we put this in the promotional stuff for this particular show. So what are clients looking for? At a high level, they're looking for what I talked about at the beginning. They're looking for a solution to their problem. If I want to step down and get a little bit more granular in micro on you versus macro, I think there's four areas of financial planning, four core areas. And I've mentioned this before. And I think if you can find a specialty or a sleeve inside of these, then you'll be doing just fine to hit whatever type of client you want to work with. All right. So we got cash flow management specifically. So, right, budgeting, credit repair, just, making sure that I set up the right accounts to direct how my money is managed, right? Dollar hits the account. Where does that dollar go? How many different ways is it split up between debt, taxes, charitable giving, living expenses, devising between current and future living expenses, right? So those are all the different ways, right, on just cash flow. So that's one element. And to me, that's the most important element, because if you don't get your cash flow right, all the other parts of your plans are pretty much, all right. So then we have investment positioning or investment strategy. The client needs to direct investment policy statement or strategy in order to direct what their investment choice is going to be. I'm of the persuasion that the investment strategy falls across three buckets. The first bucket would be your emergency fund, all the things, your liquid assets, all that kind of stuff. What you would have if you were to become disabled or couldn't work or didn't have any more income. All that cash doesn't earn anything. It's like insurance. Okay. The next thing is the bucket that needs to earn at least inflation, right? So your 401ks, your maybe you got a taxable account, any of that kind of stuff goes into that bucket. And it needs to be on risk profile, right? There can't be a ton. If you're a moderate and you're investing everything aggressively, or if you're a conservative and you're investing everything aggressively or moderately, and the stock market's going like this, and you call me every dot and tittle of the stock market, you're invested wrong, right? We got to reposition you so that you can be in that bucket for the long term, at least 7 years, right? So that's what that bucket's for. The last bucket is your aspirational bucket. This can be off risk profile. So if you want to talk about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, Ripple, speculative real estate, whatever, right? No more than 10 to 15% of your net worth goes in that bucket. And we allocate your empire, your net worth across all those buckets. That's how we have a more solid investment strategy, right? Because you're not worried about what your 7-year and on money is doing when you got enough of emergency fund and enough liquidity, right? Or if something happens to you, you couldn't work. So that's kind of how I think about that. So that's investment strategy. The next one is tax strategy, right? Nobody wants to pay more than their fair share. And obviously, if you pay more than your fair share, you get big refunds every year. That money could be inside your plan doing a lot better. Or I've seen people, on average, I would say people leave probably somewhere between $4,500 and $5,000 on the table every year through unoptimized benefit plans. And so I go through that kind of stuff. Or how they're exercising options and equity, restricted stock and things of that nature. So that in taxes is huge, because you can save people a lot of money there. Got a lot of client stories there. Don't have time to go into them. And then the last one is income and asset protection, right? If you get hit by a car or you wake up in a cloud tomorrow, what's going to happen to your family? Those dependent upon you. Those look like a couple things. Usually life insurance, medical insurance, health insurance, long-term care, disability in some instances. So that's all. And even the stuff that, for your home or your house, if you were in Houston and you've had flood stuff going on. So there's all kinds of things there across. And I always say is pick a specialty amongst those and go find clients that need that particular problem solved under there. They're likely need more than one, but then we're going back to the whole notion about having a niche, right? So all those four areas need to talk to each other. And if they don't, it's called not having a comprehensive plan. Okay. So that's why I'm a comprehensive planner, because I talk in all those areas. Okay. So that's what clients want. They want answers to questions or problems underneath all four of those areas. Okay. And that's what's important to them. I'm just going through my notes from that my social media team posted for me. The elements of financial planning. I think those are the four elements. I'm not going to go through the CFP stuff. Go to cfp.net. There's a few steps. More than a few. There's several steps as far as gathering the data and monitoring the plan and giving the recommendations, all that kind of stuff. I hate to say it, but that's all the boring stuff, right? Like you guys come to me for the color, right? Not the black and white, right? The actual color outside the lines. Okay. So yeah, go to them for that. What else do we got before I go cook dinner and drink some wine? How do you determine what you charge? Yeah. So this is actually a good one, Phillip. So I've heard people like Michael Kitces, who's really respected in this field. Let me take a water break real quick. Hold on a second. I've heard him talk about 1 to 1.5%. You start to get to 2.5% of income. Clients start to do one of those things on you. So I think, so this is what I advise advisors do. So when I'm working with an advisor, like my friend, so we the last, I don't know if you were here at the top of this, but so the last 2 days basically did an intensive, from soup to nuts, A to Z, how are we going to build your business? Who are you going to serve? All that kind of stuff. We went through all that, whiteboarded it out, the whole nine. And one of the things that we talked about in there was pricing, obviously. And what I advise and what I've done is for you to take those, you can take those 4 elements of financial planning that I just talked about, cash flow, investment positioning, tax strategy, asset and income protection. And you can start to think through what you are good at and what you would want to offer to somebody, right? So creating a budget, a debt pay down plan, 401k review, blah, 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 whatever. List those all out. Next column, list out what, kind of briefly describe what that service is so you can at least know the difference between those, because some of those may need to be combined, right? Then the next column is, how long does it take you to do those things? If you were to do those for a client and they came to you on a project plan basis, how long would it take you to do that? It's usually your hourly rate times, I'm sorry, how long would it take you to do that? Then the last column is the cost. So just hourly rate times how long it would take you to do that in hours or minutes or whatever. That is your pricing schedule and build in some profit for it. It's real simple. Most advisors don't do this. I don't know why. But you shouldn't be hemming and hawing about what your pricing is. I mean, unless you've been doing it. If you've been doing it long enough for me, you listen to the client, you listen to the situation, and you go, oh, it's gonna be 10 hours of work for me. And my hourly rate is $300 an hour. So that's a $3,000 client. Done. So you just need to get more accustomed to what you're worth, how long it takes you to do things, and that's what you would do for pricing. If you do AUM, that's on the planning side. If you do AUM, I wouldn't charge more than 1% a year. I mean, this is a whole nuance, and maybe we can, talk about this later, but there's not much value you can bring beyond the stuff that I just talked about. And I would not tie it to investment performance. That's a no-no. That's probably a whole nother podcast, but I wouldn't do that. How to shift into this from a non-relevant field. What would be your non-relevant field, Mackenzie? You got about 5 minutes before I hop off. So if you're still listening, go ahead and pop that in there. Really appreciate the opportunity and continue content put out. Looking forward to. Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you, Jareth. I appreciate that, man. Yes, Phillip, I do know a little bit about cryptocurrency. I don't know a lot, but I did at one point in time. I had to get acquainted enough because people kept on asking me about it. So I have what would be called, I guess, dinner party working knowledge. And that may not be true after the second glass or third glass of wine. How about that? Did Megan mention how financial coaches charge in last week's video? I don't know. That's a good question, Randy. I mean, just go check it out. I don't know if we talked about that per se. But I don't think it's any different than what I just named, actually. I mean, you need to have an idea of what your service is so that you could describe it to the client and how long it takes you to do that particular thing and multiply it by your hourly rate and then build in some profit. I mean, it's cost and profit, and that's a whole big nuance thing. But I mean, keep it simple. Just have that chart. It's not necessarily you have to give it to clients. You can if you want to, or post it on your website. You can be as transparent as you want. I think you need to know that. I'm more so saying that you need to know that internally, right? So you can have conversations with people. That's what I would say. And looking to help people. Okay, so I guess it just depends. I don't know I don't know what transferable skills you have because I don't know you right now. That's not to say you don't have any. I'm pretty sure you do. What I would do is if you are serious about moving into this field or at least getting enough knowledge to see if you can transition, the first thing I would do is go to the community resources page. Under aspiring financial professionals is the Make the Leap webinar, on-demand webinar. So you can listen to it right now, right? I'm doing this right now. I've done several of them. So you can go register for that and they run at the top of the hour. And so go through that. It's going to give you a really good ground floor foundation on, okay, I think I could know this, or no, have no zero interest. And then you know. And so that's hour and a half of your time well spent. That's what I would do if I were you, because I don't have enough context on your situation to give you an answer. And I wouldn't tell you anything that I don't believe in. So, okay. I think hopefully that helps everyone. Thanks for joining, everyone. We'll see you back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Group coaching this week. If you want to do that, the link to register. This is not free. It's not free, by the way. Maybe I didn't mention that, or maybe I did. I can't remember, but it's not. So again, you have to invest. I ascribe a value to my time. So that's why I'm charging for it, just like the financial plan. So if you think it's going to be worth it for you, then absolutely go there. I will say, if you become a student inside the Jumpstart coaching program, it's free for you. So that's something to think about. But yes, excellent. We are signing off and we are seeing you guys later. Let me know if you have any questions. You can throw those in the chat. On YouTube, you can leave your question in the comments. I usually get to those during the week, or wherever you're watching this from, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Just throw it in there. I'll try to get to it as soon as possible. Otherwise, we will see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.